What is up, friends? Happy Friday. Thank God Friday's here. Man, it's a beautiful day outside. I'm ready for the weekend. Thank God this work week is almost over. Media days, at least the big ones, those are over. Some of the smaller conferences you can't find on TV, which kind of sucks, but oh well. What are you going to do? I guess you can watch them online. Yeah, Big Ten, ACC wrapped up this week. Actually, Big Ten wrapped up yesterday. ACC wrapped up yesterday, too, if I remember right. Anyway, so we're going to go over what was said at ACC Media Days and the Big Ten Media Days. Uh, Here's my official ranking of Media Days. Number one, SEC. They do it right. Plenty of time to talk to the coaches on the desk there with all the SEC people. Plenty of time on the podium with questions from the other members of the media around the country. They are number one. Number two, Big Ten. Same thing. Plenty of questions from the Big Ten gang there at the desk. This Q&A up on podiums is a lot shorter. I think they only get 15, 20 minutes, but still. It's a good media day. Number three, ACC. ACC has the ability to be number two or number one, but they are commercial happy. The ACC people are quite happy with themselves too, because at the desk is great. They talk to coaches and players just like the other ones, and they get great information there at the desk. But all of a sudden they're like, okay, Mark Novell's at the podium. Let's cut in. He's already halfway through his press conference, and they also have no trouble cutting from the press conference to a commercial. So ACC, you could be two or one, but you just don't have it all together yet. Big 12 and Pac 12, they tie for last. Big 12, it's all about the ESPN people. Coaches are up on the podium. You see it in the background. You can't hear any questions from any of the other media. It's all about ESPN. Pac 12, they have one day, and it's just not as good as the other ones. So, SEC number one, Big Ten number two, ACC number three. They show potential, but they're not doing it. And then Big 12 and Pac 12. So that's my ranking of media days. Some people may think different. Anyway, we're going to go over those, but we got some news to get to. A lot of big things have happened in the last few days here. So let's start Colorado back to the Big 12. I actually never understood why the Pac-10 wanted Colorado. I guess maybe the TV market there in Denver, they wanted that. Because Pac-12 is always, Pac-10 back then, before Colorado joined, it's always been rich tradition of baseball and softball, and Colorado's got neither of those teams. So I never understood the whole Colorado thing. Like I said, it must have been the Denver TV market. Utah I can understand, but I never understood why they took Colorado. But now that Colorado, USC, and UCLA have all left, I know Oregon called at a meeting of their board of trustees. I think it was yesterday. Don't know. I haven't heard what that meeting's about. Haven't seen anything. Whether they're contemplating on leaving, who knows? But they're looking to expand now. They said, heck, I mean, look at some of these other teams you got there. Boise State, that might be a good fit. Wyoming, that could be a good fit. Utah State, they played good ball the last few years. That could be a good fit. But who are they going to expand and get? I mean, there's other teams in California. Fresno State's not too bad. San Diego State. San Jose State had a big year a couple years ago. So who are they going to get? That's what remains to be seen. Colorado back to the Big 12, which means Big 12 says they are looking for a 14th team to add to their conference. Excuse me. All right, back. So, Big 12 looking for a 14th team to add. There were talks about Arizona. Don't know if that's going to happen. It's just talks, speculation. So we'll see what happens there. Notre Dame strength and conditioning coach Matt Balis, he resigned the day before fall camp. Still haven't heard a reason why. The day before fall camp, he says, hey, I'm resigning. So see how that affects them. ACC also says it is absolutely open to expansion to their conference. trying to think of a team. Who could the ACC get? It'd probably be, oh man, I don't know, somewhere, some teams there on the East Coast, I would imagine. But who would they get? I mean, I guess they could get, see if West Virginia would leave the Big 12. I mean, that might be a good fit. It's right there. But they're open to expansion, they said. Remember Jeremy Pruitt, ex-Volunteers coach that caused all the problems and penalties and all that stuff, $8 million fine by Tennessee to avoid postseason ban. He's returning to his high school to teach PE, and he will also coach a junior high basketball team. So, yeah, at least he's doing something with his life. Another lawsuit, the fifth lawsuit to come down against Northwestern, former linebacker Simba Short, played in 2015 and 2016 before he had to medically retire. He has filed a lawsuit against Northwestern. Some more sad news here on the college front. Butler, scandal at Butler Brewing. Former athletic trainer Michael Howe has been accused of sexually assaulting 3 former women's soccer players. They've filed lawsuits already against Butler. It's just sad thing going on in college athletics now. People taking advantage of other people, and geez, I mean, I guess it just never ends, does it? So man, that sucks. Horrible situation, just like Northwestern. A little bit of good news. Bronny James, son of LeBron, he's released from the hospital after having cardiac arrest at USC basketball practice. Good to hear for him. Good. He's going to be okay. Haven't seen when he might return to the team. So I guess they're just going to have to see about that. And another basketball. Last piece of news is basketball. Also, Kansas and North Carolina will start a home-and-home series in 2024. So, like I said, ACC Media Day started, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Big Ten was Wednesday, Thursday. Like I said, their media days, it was good, but it kind of sucked. Not as bad as the Big 12s did. But they're just commercial happy over there at the ACC network. It don't matter who's talking. They'll cut out to go to the commercial, which is amazing, but I don't know. All right, so day one started off like most of them do with the commissioner, Jim Phillips. Some of the things he said, first of all, he gave remembrance to the Virginia players that died in the shooting last fall. So that was pretty nice of him. Heartfelt remembrance of them. It was pretty cool. Talked about how they're moving the conference headquarters to Charlotte. There are 90, I didn't know this, there are 90,000 AAC alumni right there in Charlotte. So I guess it's a good fit for them. Praise the new ESPN Disney partnership. A lot of you know I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. To me personally, since Disney bought in, ESPN's coverage and just hasn't been as good when they buy in, like 2006, 2007, something like that, somewhere back there. I just think their coverage is kind of slacked off. But hey, it's just me, a fan, watching all the games every Saturday. He said the presidents and ADs of the ACC have been discussing revenue distribution. ACC conference is third in revenue earnings. I'm guessing the first is SEC, and I guess the second is Big Ten. I haven't looked them up. Maybe Big 12, but I would imagine SEC is in first place in that. He wants Washington, D.C. to be involved in fixing NIL. The state-by-state rules are frustrating. I agree with that. Something needs to be fixed, but look, these guys in Washington, they can't even fix the country. Divided as hell. Inflation out the ass. I mean, you got to decide sometimes do you want gas in your car or groceries. So are these really the people to be fixing NIL? I mean, that's just my opinion. These morons up there in Washington, they can't even run a country right. You think they're going to fix this whole NIL problem? A lot of conference heads of conferences and ADs think they can, but and evidently coaches too. But I just don't think they'll be able to do it. And those people aren't smart enough up there. He says our student athletes are not employees. Pay for play issue must be addressed. Boosters paying um, boosters paying players are not NIL legitimate. So I agree with that. He says too many players enter the transfer portal based on rumors and false promises. This must stop. A lot of bad actors and false promises are not good for the sport. And I think it was Greg Sankey hit on this during their SEC media days that evidently these people will promise this player, hey, come play at this school and you can whatever, promote my product and get paid all this, and they don't have any money. They just get them there to the school and they don't have any money to give them. So that's bullcrap, I think. But, you know. Hey, he praised Bill Hancock on his retirement. Bill Hancock is going to ride off into the sunset after help getting this CFP thing going. He says ACC is the only conference to play all 5 days that Labor Day weekend, Thursday through Monday. He said all the teams will play. The only conference to do that. 5th time in 7 years too. This is pretty cool. CW Network, they're getting into the college game. They're going to broadcast 13 football games for the ACC this season. So that's cool. We'll see what their announcers are like. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some people we know from the past. Maybe there'll be brand new people. I don't know. But hey, it's another channel to have college football on your TV. The ACC Road Trip Show. You know, the ACC does it. Big Ten does it. They will broadcast from all 14 schools this year. He addressed the Northwestern situation because he was the AD there during most of the time all that crap happened at Northwestern. Said he's sad for that school and he can't answer any questions to ongoing litigation. I think he's actually being sued. A couple of lawsuits too, so I don't blame him for not answering any questions on that. He says the ACC teams have to get off to a good start to show that this league is a good conference. I think the league is a good conference. They just got that hill, Clemson. Now they got Florida State right below them. But there's some good teams. They just got to pull some things together. North Carolina's a good team. They just blew a few games last year. Wake Forest is coming on. Virginia Tech, you know they're going to turn things around and come on because that program isn't going to stay down forever. You know Miami's got to. I mean, Miami's always had a damn good football team except for a few years. But they got a lot of tradition there in Miami. So you know they're going to start turning it on again. He said there's lots of talks, with Notre Dame about the football program joining the ACC. Of course, they don't want to because they've got that NBC contract. They keep all the money for themselves. But he says that Notre Dame is always welcome here if they want to bring football over full time. So, don't know if that'll happen, but hey, you never know. All right, so after him, Syracuse's Dino Babers, he was up. He said he's excited about Jason Beck coming in as offensive coordinator. They need to get better on the O-line and also need to improve their running game. Says he lost 5 coaches in the offseason. But new coaches have come in and given lots of life to his players. So that's good. Lost 7 out of 22 starters in the first 6 games last year. So he's playing a lot of kids that didn't have experience. She said he had to go to the transfer portal to fill in a lot of the gaps. Strong leadership this year. Guys are locked in and focused and working hard. Next up is Georgia Tech's Brent Key. He actually led Georgia to 4-4 in the final 8 games as the interim coach last year. Remember? Georgia Tech, one of the teams that fired their coach in September. Wisconsin was the other one. But final 8 games. Took him 4-4, so they made him head coach. He says we got a lot of work to do. He was honest. I didn't know this until the media days. Florida State quarterback Chris Winkie hired as co-offensive coordinator. Not cool deal. 3-way quarterback battle will happen in fall of this camp. 3 guys he likes. Says we need to be more consistent in the running game, throwing game, and both offensive and defensive lines have to become more physical, and more toughness is needed in our players. Next up, Miami, Mario Cristobal. He says sometimes when rebuilding a program, you have to go through a bad season to see what you need to fix player and personnel wise. I would agree with that. He said they had a great spring and summer. Learning a new system is split between player and coach. Both must be on the same page. Yeah, I would agree. He says his roster has a good blend of veterans, recruits, and portal guys. So, next up, Louisville, Jeff Brom came over from Purdue. He says we want to do whatever it takes to get the fan base to buy into our system. Likes challenges, likes building winning football programs. Right now, looking at our strengths and weaknesses, finding out what we need to fix, and we must be realistic when looking at our schedule. That's pretty honest right there. He's saying something like, well, we can win these games. These are going to be iffy. I mean, he was honest about that stuff. So a lot of coaches won't be, Our goal is to build a championship level team. Honest with players. Just because you're a starter doesn't mean you won't play. Just because you're not a starter doesn't mean you won't play. So he's saying, hey, if you're a good backup, you're going to get in there and you're going to play. Let's see. Wants players to get better on and off the field, like most coaches do. Excited about the Howard Schellenberger Trophy between Miami and Louisville. That's going to be starting this year. Loves how hungry his team is, working hard, and understands there are no shortcuts to success. The key is how they handle the ups and downs throughout the season, which, yeah, I would agree with that. Let's see here. Next day, that was the end of day one. Day two, start off with Florida State, Mike Novell. Took last season's momentum into this year. We had a great spring and summer. We embrace the expectations. Love the media is talking positive about Florida State. We need to get the right amount of transfers in. Our great players are improving by doing the little things. He says, we are looking for, we aren't looking for jersey numbers. We are looking for the right person for the right fit at each position. Tells recruits and transfers Florida State isn't for everybody. He is honest about that. He says we're going to be a balanced offense. Each offense unit he likes. He says they're looking good. He says all of us coaches and players push to get better every day. I would hope so. Defense says needs to be aggressive, relentless, and consistent to continue success. He loves his defensive front seven. So keep an eye on them this season. Next up is Va Tech, Brett Pry. Team needs to be more explosive, needs to create bigger plays on offense and defense. Yeah, I would agree. He says we're in a much better place on the recruiting trail than we were a year ago. Wants to get Virginia high school players, wants to get players in Virginia to stay home and go to Virginia Tech. Putting in the work and trust across the state of Virginia is paying off because he is getting those Virginia players. Says he's a more mature head coach than last year. Our staff has made good strides towards the team we need to be. Very excited about his defensive staff and his defensive players. Next up, Pitt coach Pat Narduzzi. We have an advantage being in a bigger city with NIL. Yeah, that goes with something that James Franklin said. He said they were kind of behind in NIL there in, I guess, Little State College. I don't know how Little State College is. I've never been there. But he says they're a little behind. And it's just a college town, so I would imagine there are more NIL opportunities in big city at schools in big cities than there are at schools in small college towns. So yeah, you say it doesn't matter what division you're in as long as you can take care of business. When asked about how he felt about the divisions going away. When it comes to recruiting and transfer portal, he says we do that. We go by what we need. We didn't get a lot of 5-star recruits, but we develop our own players well. We evaluate talent, not the number of stars by their name. That's pretty good because how many, 2, 3 stars turn out to be great players for your team? Needs to be a lid on NIL, maybe a salary cap type thing, type of ceiling on it. A lot of coaches said that during their media days. He says he's excited to play Yankee Stadium. They're going to play Syracuse at Yankee Stadium. He's excited about that, so good for him. Virginia, Tony Elliott came up next. They honored the. I didn't see the Virginia spring game, but they honored the players there. They had their names in the end zone and everything, so that's pretty cool. He said the team really came together after that tragedy. From that tragedy to now, they've really, really come together and become close. He said our players are moving forward without moving on. We will always honor them. Our team has a better understanding of what we are trying to build. Quarterback Tony Muskett has improved in passing, efficiency, and leadership. Says we want to be a balanced offense. We want to score points. I hope so. He's waiting for fall camp to see what the true identity of his offense is going to be. Somebody asked, what would you tell your younger self? He said, I'd tell my younger self, enjoy the moment. And think about it. When we're young, we want to grow up so bad. And then when we finally get here, we want to be young again. Remember? No bills. All you had to worry about was what was on TV and what friends you were going to play with. You didn't worry about bills, mortgage and all your job and all that crap. So, yeah, if you're young and you're watching this, enjoy the moment because it gets harder as you get an adult. As much as you want to grow up, it gets harder when you're an adult. Defense needs to play with tremendous effort and get more turnovers. We need to develop depth in the secondary. Liked having discussions, or he liked having divisions in the conference. Wishes they weren't going away, but oh well. He said, I want a good running game. I think most teams probably would want a good running game. Next is Duke's Mike Elko. He said last year was a testament. A good culture transfers to wins. Good culture transfers to wins. Lots of returning starters, most in the ACC. We want our team to have grit, be mentally tough. Still a lot of areas we can get better at, and we want to elevate this program. We aren't where we want this program to be yet, but we are on our way. Turnover margin, getting stronger, running the football, stopping the run were some of the reasons for our success last season. Happy to have quarterback Riley Leonard back. 2,900 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 INTs. I'd be happy too. He said his game can elevate. He can get better than what he is. Preparing players for life after football is a big part of their program. Stated there is room for both. Oh, somebody asked the question was, given that Duke has had all this basketball season, all this success in basketball, is there room for a successful football program too? He said, yeah, there's room for both basketball and football programs to have success. And we see it at other schools too. I don't know why somebody would ask that question. There's plenty of schools that are great at football, basketball, even some that are great at baseball and softball too, and other sports. So I'm not sure why they asked that question, but all right, so moving on to the last day. Start off with Boston College's Jeff Hafley. He said the entire O-line is back and healthy. Great depth, but there will be competition. He wants the best players in each spot. D-line will be good. D-line's got great depth. Team's attitude and effort is contagious around the locker room. Our guys believe in what they are doing. They believe in what our coaches are doing. And then he said we got good wide receiver core that's flying under the radar. Nobody's talking about them, but they will be at some point in the year. Next up was Wake Forest Dave Clawson. Hates when he loses good players to the transfer portal, but he wishes them well. I think every coach probably hates when they lose some great players to the transfer portal. Wide receiver core is great. 4 coming back, had over 500 yards each in receiving. He's got great depth in his wide receiver room. He said 6 players 6 of his players turned down big NIL money to stay at Wake Forest. So they really love Coach Clawson. Quarterback Mike Griffin returns. Griff's returns. I'm sorry, not Griffin. Griff's returns. He played for Sam Hartman when he had those blood clots, remember last year? Said he was impressed by him. We will have inexperience there. We will have inexperience in some areas, but we will have a good football team. Next up is North Carolina, Mack Brown. He said somebody had asked him what's the differences now than when you started coaching. He said head coaches are multitasking more these days. Roster management is harder. The early signing days kind of messes things up. NIL, recruiting, transfer portal, tampering. That's what challenges coaches now. So I can see that basically pretty much. Feels good about the secondary. Defense should be good, but must get aggressive. Quarterback Drake May returns. He actually asked his coaches, Drake May asked his coaches to help him improve in the offseason. And Mack Brown said something about it. It was kind of crazy. Something he didn't see. He said Drake May didn't have a flawless game at all last season. You know, there's a couple of North Carolina games I watched where he just didn't look as good as he had in other games. So, I don't know. Maybe Mack Brown's seeing something I didn't. I don't know. Should be much better in the running game with the addition of Chip Lindsey as our new OC. So, that was Coach Brown. Dabo Swinney, Clemson, he came up next. He said kids from all over the country are coming to play football at Clemson. Players, great work in the offseason, he said. He loved how hard they worked. Wide receivers are healthy. Some of the fastest wide receivers we've ever had. Good group and good depth in that wide receiver camp. Defense experienced. Great depth in the secondary. Talented defense returning. Linebacking core is going to be great. Brought in TCU's OC, Garrett Riley, in the offseason. So, Clemson, they may make another run at that playoff again finally after being out of it for a few years. Next, NC State's Dave Doran. He says we got unfinished business. That is the theme of the players this year, unfinished business. Need to pursue the ball better on defense. D-line returns a lot of depth. Linebacker will be some new guys playing. Brought in Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. Remember the quarterback, Brennan Armstrong from Virginia? Put up some good numbers for Virginia. He brought him in. Happy about the elimination of divisions. He said he has been wanting that for a while now. So I don't know how to feel about the divisions. I kind of like divisions. But, I mean, I've been watching football for, 40-something years. So I remember a time when there was no divisions. I think the SEC was the first one to start with divisions, I think, in 92. And then others joined WAC. Remember the WAC had a 16-team conference one time, and then the other ones started doing divisions so they could add a championship game. It makes no difference to me. I like divisions, but I can live without them. Like I said, I've been watching football for a long time, and going back to the days when you weren't guaranteed a championship game. You winning the national championship was how much the media liked you, and they voted. They voted on you whether or not you were number one. A lot of teams, undefeated teams, and one-loss teams that probably should have won the national championship in that first, 70 years, didn't win it because some other team was voted number one by the press. So, I know it sounds crazy, but look it up if you don't believe me. If you're young and you don't believe me, think I'm full of crap, go look it up. They used to vote who was number one. All right, so Big Ten, Media Days, Day 1. New commish. Tony, how do you say his name? Petetti? I think Petetti is how you pronounce it. He was up first. Balancing 3 TV partners has been tough for scheduling the sports, but football is the easiest to schedule. And the new NBC crew is going to be, the 3 guys that were up there talking. Joe Klatt, Gary Danielson. A lot of people hate Gary Danielson. I don't mind him. And Todd Blackledge, which I've been a fan of Todd Blackledge for years on TV. He's great. Those 3 guys are up there talking, so I think, because they're going to have, I'm pretty sure I saw the NBC, their primetime game on Saturdays is going to be a Big Ten game because they're getting the Big Ten contract. So I'm guessing those three guys are going to be in the booth, which is cool. See who else they got. Who knows? Maybe different, but those three guys were promoting it up there at the Big Ten. He says true NIL is the ability of a student athlete to use your name, likeness, and performance on the field to create value for a business. There should be some sort of protection for the student athlete. He said everything else is just pay for play, which is wrong. There has to be rules for this NIL system. I agree with that. There's a lot of pay for play going on. I mean, it's always been pay for play. Some schools get caught at it, SMU. Some don't. So, yeah, they got to do something about that because it's just crazy, right? It's like the Wild West. A lot of coaches say Wild West, and it is. He says he has been in constant contact with Northwestern through this whole situation, daily basis, basically. Our role as a conference is how can we help Northwestern move forward through all this. So that was it for Commish. He said some other things, but nothing really too interesting. First up was Iowa. Kirk Ferentz, 25 years there at the helm. And a lot of speculation because the athletic director, he's going to be retiring, I think, next week after. It's Kirk Ferentz Day because, I mean, they went to the playoff that one year. Didn't they go to the Big Ten championship game a few years ago? But then there's just kind of been, So speculation about whether or not he's going to be around much longer. And one of the reporters, I think it was, one of the reporters there in the press conferences they have, actually asked him, what's your relationship with the intern AD coming in? So, I don't know. Anyway, he said, I don't have to keep it fresh. The world does that. New players each year. So, yeah, and even James Franklin said, hey, every year you got freshmen coming in. And I think Jim Harbaugh also said, hey, every year you got freshmen coming in. So things keep fresh on their own. Does need to improve on the O-line. Standard of play needs to be better. Hey, Cade McNamara from Michigan, he came to Iowa. There's going to be some fire into that offense because he's a good quarterback. And tied in Eric All. So Iowa offense might be pretty interesting this year. He's excited about them. Positive and negatives for NIL and transfer portal. Rules do need to be in place. He's because of the transfer portal, recruiting is not as much recruiting as there is, but the transfer portal. He says he does miss a lot of going to home visits for the recruits and visiting with their families, having a good meal. He does miss that. Next up was Rutgers, Greg Schiano. He said we developed in the off season physically. Likes the players are being compensated now. He's been saying for 20 years players should get paid. He said this is the best offensive line he's had in a while. On our way to defensive consistency. Better than we were last year. Next up was Michigan State's Mel Tucker. He said, we all learned from last year and have moved on. Which, was a disappointing year. Seemed to fall apart after that Washington game when they went to Seattle. And remember that game? Washington was beating the hell out of them. Then they came back, and then Washington went on to win anyway. Seems like after that game, they kind of just, I don't know. I don't know if it was a mental thing or what, but he says we recruited well to address our needs. There'll be a quarterback competition in fall camp, 3-way battle between 3 guys. He said he changed up spring practice to keep players off the ground to avoid injuries. Didn't really elaborate, but it's got to be done, something to do with tackling, not driving guys into the ground and stuff. So he said he did change that up. He said we have been recruiting a lot bigger guys for our offensive line and our defensive line. So next up, Northwestern's Dave Braun, interim coach, going through all that. He said last few weeks have been emotional and a whirlwind. Our players need support and love. He's been having one-on-one meetings with each player. He wants all the wisdom he can get on being a head coach. Did say he's comfortable where our roster is at, but need to identify what they can do best. Now, that was when he was at the desk. Most of them, I'm going to say 99.9% of the questions from the press when he was up on stage was about the whole Northwestern situation. I can understand that, but at the same time, you still got a football team that's going to field. Why isn't anybody asking about, what's the strengths and weaknesses on the team? What do you need work at? It reminds me of like you watch one of those news programs, 2020 or Dateline, and their reporter is questioning the accused of murder, and they ask him, "Did you kill so and so?" Or what do you think they're going to say? "Yeah, I did. Yeah, right here on TV, I did it." I mean, it's just a wasted question, and asking him about all the stuff which he can't comment on because of all the lawsuits and everything. Those are just wasted questions. Why are you even asking them about them? Ask about the football team. Ask how you think they're going to do. What's the quarterback looking like? I mean, no, it's all about the lawsuits and all the stuff going on there at Northwestern. So a lot of wasted questions for Dave Braun. Penn State's James Franklin. Did you know his daughter is a hell of a cook, evidently? They talked about that. She is. Lots of momentum from last season to this season, I bet, after winning the Rose Bowl. We are good, but need to take the next step. Likes his running game. He says he likes his running game. He says the offensive line is great, but it's very hard to find tackles nowadays. Tough finding a tackle. Hey, if you're a tackle and you play well, call Penn State. It's just tough to find them. He said wide receiver, big question for us on offense. So, next up, Illinois, Brett Bielema. He said Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, that 3-game stretch was the turning point for us last season. Then we went 1-4 in the last 5 games. Yeah. He says we need to learn how to finish the season strong. He's excited about his O-line. A lot of schools are excited about their O-line this year from all the conferences. Says they all look good. D-line should be exceptional. He says there's lots of talent in the state of Illinois. Want to get them to stay home. A lot of coaches said that. What's his name? Pry at Vautech, PJ Fleck at Minnesota. Several other coaches from the other conferences I watched, they all say our state has got some great players and we need to get them to stay home. So, great. Evidently great high school football being played all over America. He added quarterback Luke Altmyer from Ole Miss. Hey, that could be a great addition there. Also, quarterback depth is very, very good there at Illinois. Day one ended with Ohio State's Ryan Day. He says, we identified what went wrong last year and we are fixing it. He said the team was young. Well, now this year they've got experience. Quarterback battle in fall camp will happen. Had to rebuild his offline in the offseason. He feels decent about them. He actually said that, I feel decent about them. But O-line and quarterback are our biggest concerns this year. One of the guys from the Big Ten, at the Big Ten desk, said something about defense, too. Defense is probably going to need some work, too. So, hey, we'll see what Ohio State does this year. I don't know. All right, day two started off with Wisconsin's Luke Fickell from Cincinnati. Had all that success at Cincinnati. Comes over, gets hired, takes over for, I forget the interim coach of Wisconsin's name, but he took over when Paul Chryst got fired last September. He says everything starts in recruiting. That's where it all starts at. He's installing the air raid offense. Old Wisconsin ground and pound is going air raid, but we should have a good running game. Looks for growth potential in those players. Quarterback room right now is very competitive. They don't do camp at campus. Fall camp, he says they take it on the road. He says a lot less distractions. Every night you know where your guys are. They're getting the proper sleep instead of playing video games all night or going to their girlfriends' houses. He actually said that. They take their fall camp somewhere on the road. He wouldn't say where, but. And then one of the guys on Big Ten said, y'all don't have very many practice fields on campus anyway. And Luke Fickell said, yeah, we don't. So, I don't know. Likes where his defense is. Likes it a lot. Next up, Maryland's Mike Locksley. Like where we are as a program, but we strive to get better. Hired Josh Gaddis and Kevin Sumlin as offensive coordinators. Being an Aggie fan, Josh Gaddis, yeah. Kevin Sumlin, guess you're going to find out. Maybe he's better than he was. I don't know, because he started out good at A&M, and then they kind of went. And then he went to Arizona, and that just didn't work out. But Arizona's a hard place to win at. I mean, it was John Mackovic. He was there after success of Texas. He didn't really have all that good at Arizona. So it is what it is, huh? Quarterback Taulia. I don't even say his last name. I don't even try to say his last name because I can never say it. He's back, and he's working hard on his ball placement. He said he left big plays out on the field last year. Transfer portal has helped build his O-line. NIL needs tweaking. NIL, transfer portal, and roster management is a full-time process. A lot of coaches said that these media days. Those three things, NIL, transfer portal, roster management, are the hardest things right now in college football. He says defense is good this year. He wants to bring back the old ACC rivalries. Remember when Maryland was in the ACC? Back when they had the good-looking uniforms, red jersey, white helmet with Terps on it, before they went to that crazy-ass crap 10 years ago. Virginia, they're on the schedule this year. But, he wants to bring back some of the old ones, Virginia Tech, and he mentioned some other ones. So that's cool in their non-conference games. He says he's happy about divisions ending. He was not a fan of divisions. Next up, Minnesota's P.J. Fleck. Our guys share the same core values. He says we're still a developmental program, even though he's won 9 games 3 times, I think. Since he's been there, he's won 9 games 3 years. New crop of running backs. Our wide receivers are great. He said because of this transfer portal, you can't take your time getting to know people. When you got a player come in, you got to get to know them now because you never know. They might be gone in a few months. So, yeah. Get to know your players fast because of that transfer portal. NIL has to have parity. It has to be clear, he says. Gratitude connects a locker room. That's what he said. Gratitude connects a locker room. He was another one. Talked about high school football. Minnesota high school football. The talent is getting better and better, and we got to get these kids to stay home and state. So, next up, Purdue's new coach, Ryan Walters, 37 years old. He's a well-spoken guy. I'll be rooting for him this year. He seems like a really good guy. First-time head coach. He says it's been nonstop, no rest. Instead of concentrating on defense, he has to concentrate on the entire team, which, yeah, you do. He says we need to come out of the gate ready to roll. Purdue starts their season off. Fresno State, Vatech, Syracuse, all to start. So he says we got to come out ready to roll. Gave up play calling, but he'll still have his input or give his input. We'll have an air raid offense, but he wants an airstrike defense too. Strengths. His strengths, he said, are edge rushers, safeties, tight end room, offensive line, running backs. Not a bad start. Hudson Carr from Texas, he got him in the offseason. He's come in and worked hard. NIL needs structure and salary cap to make it equal. Next up, guy I'm a fan of, Matt Rule. When he was here at Baylor, man, he kind of brought that program out of some ashes there. Then he took off to Carolina, which a lot of people in Texas were pissed off about. But anyway, he's back in Nebraska. I think he's going to do good. I think Scott Frost just came in and said, hey, I used to play here. I'm an old hero. I don't need to do anything in the community. Where Matt Rule says he is doing things in the community to get the crowd to buy in that, hey, we're going to bring Nebraska back. Excited to be in the Big Ten, he says. Finding the right people equals success. Yeah, I agree with that. He says wife and him actually missed being on a college campus. They actually missed meeting students' families and all that kind of stuff. He says he saw when he got there, Nebraska players have heart and they believe. Um, Wants to recruit Nebraska and the surrounding states. He says if there's a good guy in Florida, we'll grab him, but we want to concentrate on Nebraska and everything around it. He says everyone has to move forward on the same plan to bring back Nebraska to its glory days. See, youngsters may not realize this. There was a time when Nebraska was beating people every weekend 70-0. It didn't matter what team it was. It could be the number 2 team in the country. Nebraska would beat them 70-0. I mean, it was amazing Nebraska was, especially during those Tom Osborne years. Get this. He had a fullback camp. He wants to embrace Nebraska history so much, he wants to bring the fullback back to the game. So he had a fullback camp. Told anybody, hey, think you can play fullback, you're big enough, come and try out. So doing that, and he's bringing the black shirts back to the defense. Been the black shirts in practice, yeah. He says doing that, he's also telling his defense, want y'all to get after people this year. Create turnovers, all kinds of stuff. 3 and outs, all that good stuff. Next up, Indiana's Tom Allen. They had a really good years a couple years ago, then they kind of fell flat. Their first game was against Ohio State, and I remember, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, they played the first game against Ohio State on, was it Thursday night or Friday night? There in Bloomington. Almost beat Ohio State. Came very close. Ohio State pulled it out in the end, but Indiana played them tough. Well, they start this season off with Ohio State, which, according to some of the people in the press, Ohio State isn't going to be Ohio State. So, Tom Allen can get that team going here in fall practice. May have an upset the first week. Who knows? He says we have to run the football and get more 3 and outs on defense. We have to finish games unlike we did last year. Excited about our staff. Need to be excited about our staff. Need work with our starters. 4 on offense, 2 on defense coming back. Man. Spending way more time on NIL and transfer portal than I thought I would on a daily basis. Yeah. They did add 23 players from the transfer portal, though, in this offseason. Need to get better on the O-line. Quarterback battle looks to be between 3 guys. He's increased the number of team meetings so players can get to know each other better and be better friends. Unity. Like I said, unity brings success, I guess. You ever watched Tom Allen talk? He's like he's drank a bunch of coffee. And then the last coach of Big Ten Media Days right after him was Jim Harbaugh. And you know how Jim Harbaugh is. So that's kind of crazy. Fast talking Tom Allen, and then kind of slow talking and gazing off Jim Harbaugh. But Jim Harbaugh good like he always did. He says felt great to bring Michigan back to prominence. Every Saturday is a football fight for your life. They had an amazing spring and summer. Players do great workouts. He relies on his veterans to take young guys under their wing. Players want to know what's in each other's hearts. Do you want to be a Michigan guy? Do you want to play hard for this team? All the players want to know that about each other. NIL and transfer portal. He says they're working. Give it a chance. I mean, we know Harbaugh says some crazy crap sometimes. Maybe he's just saying some crazy crap, but I think most people agree that things need to be fixed. He says the best recruiters for your team are your players. Yeah, I can see that happening. Happy about expanded college football playoff. Blake Corum and J.J. McCarthy are both looking great. So that is it. That is it for the Media Days. Media Days 2023. I think they're all over. There might be some smaller conferences. No, I would say they're probably over now because from what I'm hearing from all the coaches, their their fall practice starts this next week. So I would imagine all the media days are over. All right, so we got the football preview coming up. Got all that done finally. Start that. I'm going to look at the calendar. We're going to be doing like 3 conferences a day. May start that this Sunday. Like I said, I'm not sure. I'm going to look. See, kind of space it out to that first week, which is, God, that's like a month away now? Man, we're almost here. Fall camp has started. We're almost to the season. Anyway, Friday, be safe on your drive home. You don't want to ruin your day with a ticket or wreck. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back when we start the conference preview.